It has been almost a full year since the iPhone 15 and 15 Pros came out, and the iPhone 16 is right around the corner. So I figured maybe this is a good time to conduct a exit interview of sorts and talk about what's been good, what's been bad, what's been meh with the iPhone 15 Pro over the last year. And I guess that there's no better place to start than with the design and the titanium sides and all that stuff. That's right, the biggest external design change of the iPhone 15 Pro was moving to the titanium sides, away from the shiny stainless steel. And this is the natural titanium color, and actually, I like it a lot. I think it looks pretty good, but I am getting tired of these bland colors. I loved the Pacific blue of the iPhone 12, and I wish Apple would start going back in those directions. But the design language of the iPhone 15 Pro is so extremely similar to the previous many versions of iPhone, back to the iPhone 12 with the flat sides, and the edges of the frame are just slightly rounded compared to the very sharp edges of the 14 Pro and Pro Max. On the back, you have the ever-growing camera lenses, which now include the 5x tetraprism lens, which we'll talk about more in just a couple of minutes, and similar matte glass compared to the previous models. And we do have the action button on the left side and the USB-C port on the bottom, and of course we will talk about those. I do want to mention that the durability of the 15 Pro Max has actually surprised me quite a bit. In the last 6 months, I've gone completely caseless on this phone just to see what it's like to use an iPhone caseless, because I've never done that before. And there's a whole list of pros and cons by doing that, which I'm not really gonna get into in this video. But I have dropped this phone without a case multiple times in the last 6 months, and it has held up extremely well. The screen has held up extremely well. Holding a light to this iPhone, you can barely see any scratches. There's maybe a couple of micro abrasions or whatever Apple likes to call them on the display, but I've dropped this on concrete. I've dropped it on tile. I've dropped it on wood floors. I've dropped it on tables and counters, and this thing still looks amazing. In fact, the biggest ding that I have on this iPhone was from when I was using it with a case, and it fell from a height of about 6 feet onto a flat tile surface, and I only had this. And I don't even know if you can see this, but after dropping it on concrete, I have this slightly rough edge on one corner of the iPhone, and that's it. This guy has just taken a beating and kept on going. But despite all of that, and despite the weight reduction going from the 14 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max with the titanium, I still hate using this thing without a case. I really miss having a case, and after today, the case is going back on. Sure, iPhones look great when they're naked and they slide in and out of your pocket really easily, but I'm tired of holding this thing. It's slippery. When I pull this out of my pocket, it just kind of wants to fall out. A case gives you additional grip. It gives you the psychological sense of safety and security, so you can just put your phone down on any surface and not worry about what sound it's going to make, because it's not going to get scratched or beat up. But overall, the design is great, and the weight reduction with the titanium has been a welcome change. And over the last year, it has held up extremely well, and especially over the last 6 months with it being caseless. Next up, I want to talk about the action button. When this button came out, I was excited. You were probably excited. Everybody was excited about the action button. What could it do? How many things could you do with it? Well, you can only do one thing with it at a time, only assign one function to it. Like a lot of you, I assigned the camera to the action button at first, but after a couple weeks or months, I realized I wasn't even using it because I have all this other muscle memory built in to open up the camera from the lock screen. Been doing that for years, and so the action button really gave me no benefit. But when I switched it to the flashlight, that seems like it changed everything. I use this button at least once a day, sometimes 5 times a day, whatever it is. If I'm under the desk trying to do some cable management, I turn on the flashlight. If I'm over there or in the garage or in the attic and doing something and I just don't have enough light, I use the flashlight. If I'm trying to figure out what that weird spot on my leg is, I use the flashlight. And it's great that Apple actually allows you to assign a number of different functions to the action button, or really anything when you're using a shortcut. But I've seen people build menus with this action button, and I don't get it, because you can just open up an app or whatever. That's just too much. I enjoy it for a flashlight, and it's worked well, and I've used it a ton since I've done that. On the bottom, Apple added USB-C to the iPhones with a collective finally and sigh of relief from the entire world. I know the USB-C port has been game-changing for a lot of you out there. If you're trying to get ProRes 4K 60 off your phone, USB-C port is awesome. If you're a podcaster and you're remote and you're hooking up a USB-C mic to it, the USB-C port is awesome. If you just want to carry one charging cable for basically everything you need, your laptop, your phone, your tablet, and whatever other devices you have when you travel, USB-C is awesome. Sure, it's possible to connect a USB-C dock to your iPhone and mirror the display and connect a keyboard and mice and other accessories, and I guess that has a purpose, but my usage has really been limited to sometimes charging with USB-C and sometimes connecting an external drive to get high-res video or whatever files off of the iPhone. And although I haven't had a lot of need or usage of the USB-C port, it's really nice to know it's there, and it just makes things so much easier. I do want to mention the display here real quick, and the display on the iPhone 15 Pro is just awesome, right? I mean, it's a Super Retina XDR display, it's over 400 pixels per inch, but the thing with the iPhone 15 Pro Max is that it now gets up to 2000 nits of brightness outside, which makes reading your iPhone in the middle of a hot, bright Texas day actually usable and useful. I mean, it doesn't last a whole long because eventually it gets hot and starts dimming down, but it's nice for those times when you're outside and you need to read a quick text message or do a quick Google search. I have a lot more to talk about with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, including the cameras and battery, but I do want to ask, do you have enough Thunderbolt ports on your Mac or PC? No? Well, the Element Hub from channel partner CalDigit can help out. The Element Hub is a Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 hub with 8 ports of connectivity at up to 40 gigabits per second. On the front, there are 4 10 gigabit per second USB-A ports that can run most external USB SSDs at full speed, or they can be used for thumb drives, mouse dongles, SD card readers, phone or watch chargers, and other accessories. On the back, you have 3 Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 ports for connecting the fastest external SSDs, USB accessories, or even dual 4K displays at 60 Hz on PC and dual 6K displays on Mac. The Element Hub is fully powered and can provide all the power for whatever accessories you have connected and up to 60 watts of power to your computer in this tiny little package. And the Element Hub can even act as a standalone charger when your laptop is not connected, making this a great desktop addition to your Mac, PC, or tablet. The Element Hub can also be used with other Thunderbolt accessories like the TS4. So if you need more ports than what your amazing TS4 can give you, you can daisy chain them together for more storage, 10 gigabit Ethernet, or other Thunderbolt accessories. So if you need more ports for your desktop, laptop, or tablet, CalDigit has you covered with the Element Hub, and you can find out more using the links below. And my thanks to CalDigit for sponsoring this video. There were a number of camera updates to the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max this year, including a new 48 megapixel sensor. And what's great about the 48 megapixel sensor is you can actually zoom in to different focal lengths on the sensor to get just the right focal length that you're looking for just the right shot. So all you do is you tap on the 1x button, you can go to 28 millimeter, 35 millimeter, or back to 24 millimeter, and you can actually set a default for which one you want to use. Right next door is the 2x button, which also crops in on that main sensor, giving you essentially a lossless crop on that sensor. So you're getting a full 24 megapixel image on that 48 megapixel sensor. But the real star of the show is that 5x Tetra Prism zoom lens on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And this thing has been awesome. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to an iPhone that doesn't have at least a 5x zoom. That was game-changing when going to my daughter's volleyball games and actually being able to get crisp video of her serving from across the gym. I was simply able to get shots that I was never able to get on previous iPhones, and I am so thankful for that. The big video feature of the cameras on the 15 Pro and Pro Max was the addition of ProRes logs. So now you have really high quality video and be able to grade that in software later to get the color profile that you're looking for. The downside is that the files are about 30 times bigger than your regular video files, and if you wanted to do 4K 60, you have to use external storage on that new USB-C port. Now this feature is great, and I've used it a number of times for B-roll shots and other things in my videos, but I have found when I need log footage, I use the Blackmagic camera because I can actually shoot it in H.265 and log rather than ProRes log, so the files are much, much smaller, and the video is indistinguishable from ProRes, in the way I use it, at least. For the first time in the 15 Pro and Pro Max, Apple released a Pro A-series chip, the A17. The A17 Pro is no slouch, and in all of my tests, it was about 10 to 15 or 10 to 20% faster than my 14 Pro Max, which means that the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which was extremely fast and applications were completely optimized for it, the iPhone 15 Pro Max was also extremely fast and all the apps are optimized for it. Really, performance on the iPhones has not been an issue for me in the last couple of years at all. Apple can keep adding new features and more megahertz and more graphics processing in the iPhones, but it doesn't change how I use my iPhone, And that's okay, that's good. You know, maybe it's a waste of money for me, but I'm glad that they're doing it. But one thing that they did add to the 15 Pro and Pro Max that they didn't add to the 15 is 8 gigabytes of memory, which means the iPhone 15 Pro is the first iPhone that will be able to use Apple Intelligence. That's right, Apple Intelligence that's coming with iOS 18.1 is going to be for the iPhone 15 Pro, Pro Max, and newer. So if you're running a regular standard iPhone 15 or 15 Plus, you are not going to get Apple Intelligence on that device ever. That really sucks, and I'm sorry, but Apple is definitely to blame for this, for being so stingy with their RAM on their phones, their laptops, their everything for the last number of years, and this is coming to bite them in the butt. People are gonna be really upset that their one-year-old iPhone won't be able to run some of the newest, latest stuff on Apple, especially since some of it could just go to the cloud. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe there will be reversals on this, maybe not, but I think it was definitely not an oversight, but an intentional FU to whoever bought the iPhone 15. And normally that's not a stance that I take. I don't think that Apple purposely limits their devices, but in this case, they knew this was coming. They knew far in advance that this was coming, and they really screwed anybody who bought a regular iPhone 15. I don't generally enjoy the size of the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but the reason I usually go for it is simply because of battery life. And the battery life on the iPhone 15 Pro Max has not disappointed at all. Look here, this iPhone is about a year old, and in the last 10 days, my average screen time was a very unhealthy 5 hours and 46 minutes, and that's insane, and I should be ashamed of myself. But the fact that I can use this iPhone for 5 hours and 46 minutes, plus 3 to 4 hours of background idle stuff, and still go to bed with between 25 to 50% battery life, that's pretty insane. And after a year of using this phone, I am down to 91%, which actually surprisingly low compared to my iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is at 94%, which is almost 2 years old. Even though it wasn't really used a whole lot in the last year, it's still higher than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So regardless, the battery life on the iPhone 15 Pro Max has been awesome. And as you can see, I use a lot of DirecTV, so a lot of background video, a lot of Safari, Threads, applications for work, YouTube, and other things. So I use this phone quite heavily at 5 hours and 46 minutes average screen time, and the battery definitely lives up to what I need it to live up to. Other than that, there's Wi-Fi 7 and crash detection and the satellite SOS features built in, which I've never had to use and hopefully I never will, but it's nice to know that it is there. And really, there's just not a lot to be unhappy with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It has been a solid device. It's held up well, it's taken some beatings, and it keeps on ticking, and it lasts all day. It does everything I need it to do and more. The Pro Max, though, I am tired of holding a big phone, but I think it is starting to cause some RSI issues in my hands, the way I have to hold it and grip it and reach all the way across with my thumb to try and get something on the other side of the screen, and especially being caseless, this slippery little bugger is hard to grip with one hand. But I've tried going to the regular 15 Pro, and the battery life is really the thing that gets me and keeps me going back here, along with the better camera system, which, man, that was really nice. So anyway, that's the iPhone 15 Pro Max after a full year, but I'm curious what you guys think. Has your iPhone 15 Pro Max or Pro, or even the iPhone 15 held up as well as mine has over the last year? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to hear more about that 6 months of being caseless, definitely let me know below. But if you want to check out this video right over here, you're going to love it. Yeah, right there, that one. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, hit subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.